Scott and I moved it on into the middle.
I love it.
I don't think he knew it.
You probably didn't.
Me? No. My dad, yeah.
Yeah. It's in the one that's in the drive. Okay.
Sure, the meeting since we did this.
I had a similar thing.
Or-
Mike, is this?
I don't
it?
remember,
That's it.
because I went through mine, I got a
So if I
long
go
list.
here-
That does- I think we have,
Stop.
but I don't know if I took, oh, wait a minute, that was a retreat, right?
Yes.
No, well, you have not. It was that was the day after,
Yeah, it might have been because we went,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, the meeting was on the 15th, the retreat was the 16th. I had to roll back in my book several pages.
Oh, geez.
I'm ready whenever you are.
All right. You good?
I'm good. Thank you.
I got
You are welcome.
I made a list, I'm stopping there.
All right. We are back from executive session. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
So moved? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes of the previous meeting. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
So moved? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Communications. Does anybody have any?
Say communications, I'm sorry, couldn't quite hear you. I have one comment from a I'm sorry, a parent. Actually, a parent heard some other parent talk about the size of a kindergarten class in Maplemere. Is there the question is it possible to have 9 students in a kindergarten class at Maplemere? That was the question. 9 out of, yes, just 9 students. Yes, that's why I'm asking the
The
question.
special needs class?
Yeah, we actually, I think we've had that conversation when we talked about staffing and class sizes back in September. It is an anomaly this year. We didn't want to reduce that amount of staff because we know what's coming up next year. So it is beyond statistically strange that class is so small at Maplemere, but yes, that is possible.
Okay, I don't remember the chart, but I do remember you putting it on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Unfinished business. We have none. Dr. Genestri, you're up.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Battaglia. Quick report tonight. Our first thing, we had a DEI meeting yesterday, and I'm gonna tag team this with Dr. Wilson, but as promised to the board last June, we would engage the DEI committee in a discussion on graduation gowns, caps and gowns, and the colors. When we had our issue with the tassels last year, it was widely discussed amongst parents, and I got quite a few phone calls that, you know, the tradition states that typically here at Sweet Home, females wear gold and gold gowns, and the males wear blue gowns. And that was problematic for some parents considering the day and age that we're in. And we did inform parents at that time that boys and girls do have a choice to pick, but some parents were concerned that it put strain on their children to pick the color, and traditionally it always represented a gender. So we did engage the DEI committee last night in a discussion on graduation gowns and what might be appropriate or what might not be appropriate. And to our, we had quite a few in the audience last night, but student government has already taken on the task of surveying students about gowns. And I'm going to let Dr. Wilson and Maisha take over the conversation if that's okay, because it was a great conversation amongst the DEI committee last night, and what student government has already done to be proactive, I think will help us in making a recommendation to the board.
Yes, so President Maisha worked along with the Vice President, Chica. They're both on the DEI committee. And so they were there last night, and they shared a poll that they started with the senior class about what do you want to see in the caps and gowns. And we coupled that with all the conversation across the group. There were about 35 people in the room, ranging from sixth grade students to community members, parents. It was a really great session. And we had every stakeholder group there. And so I will turn it over to not your VP, but to Maisha in a minute. But some of the things that came up in the group were making sure that the kids could still decorate their caps, and they thought there should be some guidelines for that to make sure it wasn't too big on the cap. It shouldn't go over the size of the cap, but it should be appropriate. And they talked about tassels. So as long as the cap and gown was decided upon, that the tassel will be the unifying item, given the fact though that there are other tassels that go along with honor society type groups, and making sure we honor those. And then there was a strong focus on, and I'm reading right from, we collected all the feedback and put it into one document. There was a strong focus on, we're there to celebrate achievements and refocus towards graduation and less on attire. So it's more about the accomplishments that our students have achieved throughout their time here at Sweet Home. Maisha, you want to talk about the survey and how you want to go forward with it?
Yeah, sure. We set out an informal poll to the graduating class, asking them for their input on what colors they think should be the gown, and 102 students replied out of the graduating class size, which is 207 students, and 60% said that they would like to see the traditional, they said they wanted to see blue with the gold stripe on the side, and around 18% said black, while 30 said just blue. And many people were questioning why we were changing the gowns. Unfortunately, we weren't able to give them a reason completely yet. And right now we're working with Mrs. Pinkowski and Mr. Hanger to send out like a formal poll to all of the all of the students to get input from more students. So yeah.
So more than just the senior class, or just the senior class?
There were voices last night we had all students representing all the way down to sixth grade, and they had some strong voices, and they actually agreed with much of what they were hearing and added to. So some of their feedback is in this document too. The emphasis is on choice across the board. That was the thing that was
It's interesting.
Can I ask a question? Do they rent the gowns, or do they buy the gowns, or how are they procured?
We-
They buy them?
we
or
buy them. We buy them
Okay,
and then we keep them. But they can buy them and keep them for themselves if they want. But if they want to return them in, they can.
Dr. Jensen, I believe the students buy them. We do not, the district
Oh,
is
I'm
not
my
buying any,
apologies. Okay.
it's not buying any gowns,
we do support families who need assistance.
right.
right?
But I believe it was Mr. Feldman's table. We float around as the teams are talking, and I believe I overheard, and you can correct me, that if they were a neutral color like black, it would allow us to build up on the caps and gowns and have a supply available to help families. We are a district that is right about the 50% mark of students surviving poverty. So, that's something that it will continue to change for us, and we want to make sure we can honor all families and they have the dignity of, participating in graduation and having something available for them.
So would this be a change that we're looking to make that would be, I don't want to say permanent because nothing's ever permanent, but it would go beyond just this year?
Yes.
It's not something that we're going to reevaluate every year. We're going to talk about it now and it's going to last.
Yes.
I know I've been asking about this, I think for the last 5 years or 6 years, and the student government, I'm glad to see that you've finally taken it up. But one of the things that I was always told by the president is that there was a timetable and we never seem to get in on that timetable time. So when do you have to make a decision by?
For the caps and gowns?
Yes.
Oh, they need that rather soon.
Yeah, I'm hoping December that
Right.
we bring a recommendation to the board, and we'll keep you posted on where they are with the.
That
post.
deadline
No,
once
we're
again.
actually working with Mr. Harriger. We met with him and from the senior counseling office, and he's keeping us on our toes with the timeline. So.
Good.
If I remember correctly, Mary Ann, the students have to order them by like in January.
January, right.
So that would make.
Generally, we announce it right after the kids come back.
Then do we vote on if we wear caps?
Oh, that's already a yes. That's, call that the Mr. Feldman rule.
Mr. Feldman.
Mr. Feldman loved
Mary Ann
that.
is
He
loved it.
advocating that we wear caps.
Mary Ann.
I'm not going for the caps, but I do like the,
We did wear the gowns.
We wore the gowns
Wasn't
last
it
year.
really hot, though?
it was good.
Everybody was fine
Um,
except for Mr.
It was
Feldman.
good.
Yes, they were a little toasty.
They added formality and dignity to the celebration.
It looked
I
good.
liked
It was not bad. It wasn't. I'll give it to you.
it.
That's
So
just 'cause you're on the
ultimately,
record.
though, we're making, the board is the one who will decide.
Yes.
That's right, the
Yeah,
policy.
we're gonna ask the board to vote on that. We'll have a recommendation at the study session and I'll inform you along the way through memos of where we're at with it. But if there's any input you would like, please feel free to share that with me or on the floor or wherever. And we'll always take that into consideration. But I think the nice piece about it, and I really appreciate Maisha's efforts to be very proactive, is to student voice is going to be an important piece of our recommendation to you.
Very
I
important.
think what's important also is that the way this is communicated to the public is such that there is some communication or understanding of this is the policy and this is the process by which it came about, so that we can avoid when we come down to graduation, that people are saying it's not fair or it's not representative or whatever may be the case. Because at some point, I can say what can be frustrating is I think everything we do here as a board, since I've been on, is considering all voices and all people, even when there wasn't a student group of students surveyed or represented. It's not that we're not considering that. And, sometimes then that can get out, the perspective can be, that's not being considered. But there's an element of like, you have to make a decision and there may be some, it's hard to get a 100% completely happy. And so, that's what the point of having a policy and a thing is to consider all the voices and then come to a decision. And then getting back to the communication piece, I just think, because what I would prefer is that if somebody brings up disappointment or frustration, we can say, we had the opportunity and you had the opportunity as a student, as a parent or whatever, to voice this. And, we've already been through this.
Are we looking to actually make a policy, a change to a policy, or will this just be a recommendation? What is the
I
ultimate?
don't know if there's a
end game here?
policy on what the colors are for
I know
the
you mentioned
gowns.
policy and
but
I
a
know with the
prac-
tassels, so what
Prove
is
the
kind of the end game? What do we call it? I guess it's.
The practice of what we wear at graduation for the gowns for the students.
Is there a dress code in the
Where you can tie it
policy
in?
manual that
I
somewhere?
don't think so.
I remember
So if
from
it's
the-
not a policy, then why are we voting on it?
That was, yeah, so is it
I-
a policy recommendation? Is it?
I just thought something this big, you would definitely want your vote on that. But if you don't, I mean, we can make a recommendation. That's up to you. I just figured that was the correct process to use because it is it's the ultimate celebration of our district, and it's the night of the year we're all together, and I thought the board vote would be important, but
I just didn't know what we were labeling it, whether it is actually going to be a policy, a
Well-
recommendation, because you want some teeth behind it.
right.
So
If I-
that you can defend it to parents or whoever when they ask.
If I remember right from graduation, and thankfully that's, I think, one of the nicest ceremonies we participate in. There was an issue at the high school, had some rule or regulation on the tassels.
Right.
Is that also the rule and regulation on the gowns, or doesn't apply here?
That's what we're talking.
The tassels are, in going through that, we allowed, there are certain guidelines around the tassels. I won't say there are rules around the tassels. And what we did say was, we're not policing kids on what tassels they wear. There are some academic distinctions with the tassels. But during that whole piece, a lot of people came forward and expressed that the gowns are, put gender strain, I guess, on on our kids. And what, you know, traditionally the boys wore blue and the girls wore gold. And we did have a lot of parents come to and say, why are we doing that? And even if you tell the kids they have a choice, they're still identified by one of the colors. And that became the issue.
Okay. So Maisha, your sense is that a majority of the students you've polled or surveyed are leaning towards the bicolor?
Yeah, a lot of the students just want to they want to make sure that our school colors are still represented for sure. And there were a few people upset that we were changing the traditions, but I think that we made the best approach by just asking for their input and.
Okay. Okay.
I'm on the DEI committee too, so I was there too. And we were at 6 separate tables and each table discussed this around too. Maisha's table was the first one to present, and I was looking around as she made the presentation. I saw it because I don't think any individual group came up with that thought. But when she made that presentation, I was looking around, I saw a lot of head nods that this looked like a good thing as people were saying that. I've always taken the position in that committee as I try to speak last because I don't want to be trying to drive somebody's direction on how they think about them.
So,
But I watched, and just as I looked around the tables, because we were pretty well spread out in the room, a lot of people seemed to think that was a good idea, that just they hadn't thought of it yet.
okay, yeah,
So-
again, I understand the tradition thing. I think it's good to have tradition, but I also understand that I'd like to represent everybody with that tradition, so.
Yep.
Thank you for your work, I guess is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Then who, like you mentioned the caps and to be appropriate with the caps, like who decides what's appropriate? Are there guidelines that you're coming up with? Are there?
Actually, Mr. Baker does pass out a sheet of paper about what's appropriate and not appropriate, and anything not appropriate you'll be asked to remove from the top of the cap. So there's a sheet that will go out to the seniors.
So I'm just asking to understand if it comes to us and the board voted against the recommendation, then we would just stick with what we have,
Yeah.
I guess, because again, this is not I think if we're voting on it, we would have to then vote.
It becomes a law.
Well, yeah, I guess it becomes there's some,
Rule regulation. Policy.
it's not no longer something that can be changed without us then voting again, right? So we either have to we're kind of putting a stamp on this as to.
Yeah,
Do you know
I don't know how long.
Good
they've
way to
worn
put it.
blue and
So
gold.
I don't know if we could do some research about why blue and gold was selected and if that was a board vote back in whenever. I don't know. But I don't know.
They've been wearing blue and gold.
Well,
for-
I think.
As long as I can.
I think what I'm trying to understand or get at is we're gonna make a vote on this, and I want to make sure that it's somebody who's voting that I have enough quality information, meaning that it's not just, and this is in no disregard to the student voice, but student voices, can change a lot over time, and there is also the side, like, what is the tradition behind that, what's the meaning behind that tradition and whatnot, and at least understanding. So if it were, hey, this was a student vote back, or these, because I know that the schools that I went to, they all had significant meaning behind those,
The
the
colors.
colors. And,
Now, you remember
and,
what you wore?
and I don't think we're questioning over the colors.
I want to say we all wore blue.
I thought
I think
males wore blue and females wore white.
that might be the
90s.
case. That might be the
Yes.
case.
They were white, and then I believe it switched to gold somewhere in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
But it was all, if I remember correctly, it was males wore the navy blue and have always worn navy blue. And then the females switched from white to gold.
That might be right. I graduated in the dark in the gym, so I don't remember.
You weren't much off of me.
I don't remember.
So I want to say, my year and my sister was class of 92 and I believe they wore white. Females wore white.
Okay.
When Lewis graduated, females were white.
So then that white sort of, I don't know if because it was white, they switched to gold. And those are our colors and that's what the way it was.
Yeah,
That
maybe.
being said, the girls traditionally wear white dresses under their yellow.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I think
Maybe
all
that's
I'm
what the
looking
white-
for is like, we're gonna make a decision likely to change something. And I just want to know, well, how do we, was there any reason of meaning that got us here in the first place? And if there isn't really, then that would make much more, of, not much, but that would just at least lend even more credence to, it's okay to make a change. Not saying even if there was, we wouldn't make a change, but just, I would just wanted to understand, is there a reason or meaning behind it? Because most schools or a lot of schools, at least from where I had my background, had some meaning behind, and perhaps I'm getting confused. It's more the colors than less what people actually wore, in terms of, and I think, it's not that we're changing the colors, right? We're just changing how they're presented.
And maybe, I know choice was mentioned last night, but once we get into choices, that's when more issues can pop up and some group may be offended and looking for some more uniformity, but blue and gold being in the gown would in my opinion, accomplish both things that we're trying to do. Number one, take the strain off of students to make that choice. And actually 3 goals. Number 1, take the choice, the strain of the choice away. Number 2, keep the traditional blue and gold. Number 3, focus on the celebration and not on what the students are wearing. So. Sure. All right. Got some work to do. Congratulations to our football team. And we are going to Brockport on Saturday night. It's now a 7 p.m. start, not a 6 p.m. start.
do you know why they changed it?
I don't. I was hoping earlier, but maybe they moved it to later. I don't know why they changed.
I don't
it.
know. Chris, Mr. Schumo said today that there's a game beforehand. So they were fearful of the timing of
Warm-ups,
everything and
maybe.
wanted to make sure that transportation and things were in line.
I talked to Mr. Bailey today. There were 88 students of interest to take a spectator bus. So we expect to have a great crowd again. And we just hope to keep it rolling. Next stop, if with a win, will be Vestal, New York next weekend. And then to the Dome,
Binghamton.
Binghamton area. Yep. And then win that one and at the Dome for the state finals. So good luck to the team this weekend. If you were at Highmark on Thursday night, it was awesome. It was a blowout. It wasn't even close and that was great. And the kids just had a great time on the field and off the field. So
It was a blowout.
so much fun.
In many ways.
Oh, it wasn't even, two minutes in the game. It felt like it was over. So
Well,
it was
it-
great. Let's hope that happens again Saturday.
It was nice to be there with 88 students and.
Yes.
Well, at least 88 students. I mean, our student section was, I think we had more students there than McKinley may have had fans at the stadium.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, we dominated in the stands and I expect to have it a big crowd on. Now, Brighton's local, it's not that far for us, but Brighton's local, but I expect to have a big crowd on.
But we have some alumni at Brockport and we have some large families
Yes.
that may show up.
All right.
Where's
Some more-
Aquinas in all this? They in?
They're double A.
they're double A and I believe they might actually be playing
Yeah.
at Brockport
think
this
so.
weekend.
Yeah, that could
Yeah.
be.
But they would play, I believe, Saturday afternoon. It's the double A game.
All right. So, all right.
At the plant.
No.
No,
No.
no, we do not.
It's good.
Very good. It's a busy weekend here at Sweet Home, so I just highly encourage if you hadn't gone 2 years ago to see the faculty staff basketball game, you missed out. It is an awesome time, packed gym, kids have a great time. Chef has done a tremendous amount of work to organize this and make it one of their big fundraisers of the year. There's a Dawson Knox raffle, concessions. It's only $2 to get into the door. And it is a highly competitive, two highly competitive contests between the elementary schools and then the middle school, high school. So all proceeds benefit Chef. It's a great night for a great cause and highly encourage everybody to come out on Friday night, get a little preview of some competition and then go to the football game on Saturday.
And one of the things that I've noticed hasn't been on there is the elementary schools who are playing together.
Yeah,
And I believe it is Willow Ridge and Glendale versus Maplemere and Heritage.
it is.
So
Yes.
I think that's one, and we always hear middle school, high school and the elementary game, but we didn't know who is,
Yes.
it
Those are
hadn't been
the,
announced of whose teams they were on.
yes.
So,
It's in the tick, when you go in and get your ticket, it says.
okay.
Yes.
I haven't got my tickets yet. so.
They have,
But on the thing, it's not on there. So it just says elementary game. So.
There were heavy negotiations between the administrators of the elementary schools of who they would pair up with. Heavy negotiations, so.
Huge trophies in my office, huge, huge.
It is a great night.
Have you, like, as the referee, spoken to anybody yet?
I,
Anyone tried to speak?
no, but if you're not kind to the referee, you're getting tossed. That's all there is to it. And, so we expect everybody to be,
Heckling From the stands.
no heckling,
front
respectful of
row.
the referee and,
Might have
you
just
know.
been very-
Can't bring my
He's-
air horn?
he's got a very difficult job on, Friday night for sure. So. And then our annual, well, semi-annual Dollars for Scholars Meat Raffle is December 6th with the 7 o'clock first spin. Doors open at 6, I believe, at St. Leo the Great Parish. And this also is a great night out for a great cause, giant fundraiser for Dollars for Scholars, 108,000 plus distributed last year. And so get your tickets now. I think there are very few available. There were only 275 tickets sold total. And we might have a table or two left. So if you don't have your ticket, I highly recommend getting one quick so you can attend the meat raffle. Just a great time out. Who's the auctioneer for the meat raffle? Who runs the meat raffle?
The gentleman's name is Mark Demon.
Yeah.
Mark comes in, he brings his own little wheel, brings all the tickets, he buys honestly, he does a great job.
Yeah.
This generated a long time ago. I went to one for my nephew's hockey team that my sister-in-law ran. I met this guy and he's now done, I think this is our 14th one with him. So he arranges, we tell him how many people are coming. He arranges the events, the number of games, the tickets. He arranges for the meat delivery. He organizes the meat. We show up. He hands us all aprons, gives us our tasks, and he really runs the show. It really is something that he's got his own little niche that he does. But to Dr. Ginestri's point, next to our golf tournament, that is our biggest fundraiser. So.
It's all.
And I mean, you can win a friggin'
Oh,
pork tenderloin about this long. So why wouldn't you want to come?
Yeah. Meat raffle, but for some reason, pizza logs are the most popular item on the.
Pizza logs are huge. Yes, huge,
Just
huge,
meeting
huge.
them.
Yeah,
It's minimal, but it's there.
Huge. It'll be the best $80 box of pizza logs you've ever had.
That's all I have tonight.
Any questions or comments on pizza logs? I meant for Dr. Genestri. Okay. Oh, let's see. We have some fun things coming up. As Dr. Genestri just said, Thanksgiving recess is next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, correct?
Yes.
PTA meetings, and then we're hot into music season. All the bands and orchestras and choruses and all the good stuff. That brings us to open session, our first open session. Do we have any takers before I go through it? Nope. Okay, great. New business. May I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items A through H?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, we'll go through them real quick. A is special ed class placements and preschool placements.
Nothing out of the ordinary, just again, my pitch to our special ed teachers for the great job that they do. And I still see kids coming in from other parts of even the country. It just, it amazes me that the amount of effort that's put into these meetings and to evaluate each kid. So kudos to all our special ed teachers.
Thank you. Monthly financials. Disposal of obsolete property. We have some screen, some screens. Oh, the screeners, vision screeners. I don't know why I can't read today. Board goals.
Can I just again say that we did agree on the mid-year thing in there? Do we have to incorporate that into the resolution, or? Guess if we said it's okay, it's gonna happen, correct? Okay, that's all I had.
Yes, we did discuss that, that we will have a mid-year somewhere around our budget meeting discussion about how we're doing with our goals, but the goals as written are what we're voting on.
Okay.
Corrective action plan in response to the auditor's report. External activity account for middle school life skills. Overnight field trip requests, there's 2, music and swim, and the comprehensive school counseling plan. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sustain? Abstain, sorry. I was reading and thinking at the same time. Sorry. Informational items. Maisha, would you like to start?
Yeah. Okay, going back, November 1st marked the early application deadline for most colleges. Mr. Reed had been holding Common App sessions multiple times every week. I attended all those sessions myself, and it's been especially helpful for everyone to work together or get individual advice on their personal statements. It's been super reassuring in giving seniors confidence about getting their applications submitted. Juniors took their PSAT and partook in the college fair in the library, and they really appreciated the variety of colleges that visited this year, and there's still college reps coming in to student services and talking to juniors. And seniors went to the ECC instant admissions and have a college acceptance ready to go. For October, there was Spirit Week. Many students participated and appreciated seeing the new and unique days we added. For example, we had White Lie Wednesday. That was really popular. We held our yearly costume contest. There were so many good costumes, and we awarded 12 gift cards out to teachers and students, and the costumes were judged by our wonderful security team. Our Student Government Association is currently in the process of creating a huge What We Are Thankful For tree that'll be up by tomorrow, hopefully. Our committees are finalized, up and running, and they're meeting every other week. At our most recent meeting, we shared our plans for the school year, and at the moment, we're working on 2 in-depth proposals, hoping to bring it to administration by this Friday. And they're to bring back the school store and making the fitness center accessible to students during the school day. Our Food and Nutrition Committee is making an effort to work with the school to find a way to add microwaves back into the cafeterias in the safest way possible. Our Technology Committee's goal is to work on adding Apple Pay to the vending machines and adding more charging stations in common areas in the school. And for athletics, we're going to start planning to bring back our end of the year field day this year for all class sizes. Our Diversity and Inclusion Committee has been encouraging students to open up the school day by saying a few sentences in their languages, and it's been really nice seeing students connect in that way in the morning announcements. This past Wednesday, students in leadership positions in the high school attended a Leader in Me training session, and we learned about the 7 habits of highly effective teens, and we focused on habits 1 and 2. And we'll be doing interviews with kids to see how they demonstrate those habits and make little videos and showcase those habits for all students to see on the morning announcements. And lastly, we're excited to say that Student Services has created a peer mentorship program where upperclassmen can help lowerclassmen and new students with adjusting to the high school. And the kids meet weekly and they discuss anything from personal advice and academic help. So that's been really nice.
Sounds great. Thank you. Marianne?
First, I'd like to say thank you to Peter for handling our Thanksgiving contributions for our families and,
You get your
hoping-
shopping done?
Did you get your shopping?
That was gonna be in my informational items, but yes, I
Okay,
did.
good, thank you. And then usually it's been in the past that we've done the same for Christmas if
Yep,
we're gonna
I
do.
have no problem doing that for Christmas.
Yay, thank you. I did attend the safety committee. It seems like forever ago that we did that. Some of the highlights of that is, we have done our 6 fire drills in every building and our 2 lockdown drills. It's a January timeline, I believe, the Sandy Hook Promise Emergency Tip Line, which is an anonymous tip line that I think it's going to be a great asset where if there are concerns that they can call this tip line. Is this going to be spread out and how will kids find out about it?
So
I
that's a
guess?
great question. So we've just kind of started the onboarding process. This was done prior to my prior to my taking over the safety committee team. But we have the processes in place. I had an onboarding meeting with the group last week, and we've set deadlines to kind of first start to train our administrative team, and then to start to do communication plans to announce it to the students at the middle and the high school level. So generally speaking, they think about 12 weeks to kind of work through that process. So I would imagine right around the time we either come back or just before we leave for spring break, we'll be ready to go.
Great, and thank you for getting us on board with that. It's lead testing time for our water supply every 5 years.
5 to 6, yes.
So they hope to have all that testing done by the end of January, and then anything that has to be done, they'll start on that. Still working on the mold remediation, and where have we, anything?
So from the mold remediation standpoint, we received word, and I think Dr. Genestri shared this with you in a weekly update, but all the musical instruments, repairs, cleanup, new cases, that was all covered by insurance. So we're working through the process to determine whether or not the work that was done by Stoll Environmental and Surf Pro would be covered, but we're still working through that. And then we did have 2 weeks ago, if you remember, we did an RFP for soil testing, bore testing around the foundation of the building. That work was done. We're just waiting on the report. So I would imagine that that should come in the next couple of weeks as well.
Okay, thank you for that
Mhm.
update. After winter break, mandatory password changes so that they'll only have to do them every 60 days?
Correct.
Okay, see, I was paying attention. And some of the goals for 24-25 are to include a student voice on the committee, which of course is always important to have that student voice. Attended the PTA meeting. It just sounds like so far long ago. They did the trunks and treat, which was very successful. They're going to be doing their holiday gift shop next month. The 5th grade committee had their first meeting of the year. Let's see, the biggest thing that I took away actually was in the PTA report, they're going to have 2 things. It's called Grateful Gobble Parent Luncheon, where a parent or significant person in their life can come and have lunch with the kids. And this is in response to, are you going? You going to go?
At Maplemere?
Yeah.
I don't have a kid. I'll be someone's
Oh,
surrogate
somebody's
parent.
surrogate, but
Could
I thought this was a
absolutely do that.
great alternative for, because parents want to start getting in the buildings more, and I think this is a great start, and they can only build from there. And then the first copy of the Leadership Chronicles have come out. Habit 1, be proactive, that were sent home, and lots of great leader in me discussion in this. So, and I believe this is going to be monthly that the leadership team is putting out. What else? It seems like such a long time ago, but we did our board retreat and we went to Glendale, and they still thank you for the goodie bag that Glendale gave us. And we had a chance to sit and watch some restorative justice for kids on a bus. They were having difficulty on the bus, and it was very eye-opening because I guess I never really knew what was involved in the restorative justice. And just to watch it in action, where the kids came up with their ideas, how they could make things better. Very eye-opening and good leadership. It was really impressive to see. And I thank all the buildings that we went to because they were very welcoming and showed us some good things. And I enjoyed our AI retreat, where we learned a lot. We had a great speaker, and really informative. And I think that's it. It's enough. And then there's you, like 9
Oh,
pages.
yeah, I think I have at least that many pages. I'm not going to read them all. I got a bunch of things I'm going to try and send in for the next meeting. I just didn't get them all pieced together. But anyway, the board retreat, which Mary Ann discussed, several of us went to see Rick Timms. It's when he came to ECASB to make his presentation. Very informative as usual. It was interesting this year. He, in the past, he's always identified the schools in the presentation and just put all the numbers in. This time, he put just numbers next to each of the schools and tell people to try and figure it out themselves. Now, it wasn't too difficult to figure out what ours is. No, as long as you know what your budget is, it's pretty straightforward, but but it was kind of interesting wondering, you know,
We found it
you
quick.
have to, yeah, you have to go look a little bit further to try and compare it against the other people, but it was good information all the way around. Handful of us went to the convention in New York City. I spent a lot of time in AI classes. Most of the time I was there, and all but one of them were very good, very informative. I'm going to actually get the slide presentations down and add to my notes to them that I took, so I can share those with
How does this
everybody.
compare to other, because you've been to a lot of them. How did this compare to some of the other conventions?
I think overall it was a great convention. It really was. They did a good job of putting everything together. The only issue that I saw at all was with the hotel front desk not knowing what the hell they were doing. And
Okay.
Sherry's been doing that battle for a long time, and thank you for that. We've discussed it for a while. But overall, the convention itself they did a great job. Sliding down my list here, we had the OACM meeting discussing with the architects about the building project and where we're going to go with that. And again, they were here at our last meeting, so we know that. We had a legislative committee, subcommittee meeting to work on planning the legislative breakfast, our first DEI committee meeting of the year, the safety committee meeting. We had an alumni board meeting in there and a chef board meeting. The chef board meeting was spending a lot of time preparing for the upcoming stuff, in particular the faculty basketball game. I attended the French Honor Society induction. It was a small group and a relatively quick function, but I'm glad to see they were doing it again. The last handful of years, they've been doing it in the classes for the kids rather than in front of the parents. But I think the parents really appreciated having to be able to have their kids come up front to do that part. The Building Use Committee, and we had just this past Saturday was our legislative breakfast. Thank you to everybody that attended that. We had a couple of last minute cancellations on our local representatives, so I was a little disappointed on that, but our assembly member Karen McMahon was there for that. And I know you guys, several of you sat at the table with and got a chance to talk to her about this stuff. She also volunteered at the end of the day to get up and talk and talk about the things that we had discussed. And my understanding is she was taking notes fast and furious about what we were talking about, which is good to see because we did bring up a lot of issues.
Mr. Johnson, if you don't mind, I
Go ahead.
ran into Assemblyman Bill Conrad yesterday, and him and I sat and talked for about a half an hour about he was super apologetic. He had a last minute thing pop up, but we reviewed everything that the ECASB went over, and, you know, he wanted to know what took place at the breakfast, and I filled him in, so I had a good conversation with him yesterday.
Good, thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, I know his was the last minute because
Yes.
literally that morning we got the word that he couldn't be there. So
Yeah.
Was there, a few of them were attending the funeral for the fireman that was killed in the fires? Is that
Throughway
right?
worker.
Throughway
Throughway worker.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a little sad that we only had one rep there.
Yeah, and there were several of their aides were still there, which I did talk to a few of them at the end of the evening or at the end of the day before they left. But yeah, so they were taking notes too. I mean, I did see and talk to some of them, but it's not the same as having the representatives, although they usually go to them for the questions anyways. And we've also got a dinner coming later in the year, and we'll be rolling off to our, in February timeframe, the trip to Albany to meet with the legislators there. Plus, we're going to start at the same time meeting with them locally too, to make sure that we get in and get their points across again and again and again. And finally, yesterday, we had our second DEI committee meeting of the year. And this was after the subcommittees rolled into it a little bit. It was awesome. And I'd mentioned to the people sitting next to me, it was great to see so many student faces, so many parent faces, something we've always talked about. And they were there. I don't know exactly how many students, but I think I counted at least 6 or 7, maybe more.
We have 12 signed up on the committee and 3 had conflicts last night, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was great just to hear those voices. And I sat down with a young mom that she sat next to me that was talking to that joined that, and part of her normal job, that's what she lives and breathes is DEI. So she's going to bring a great perspective to the committee. She's also joined chef for us too. So that's great. And that's everything I got.
So you did take new members on. Was that the decision of the committee?
Yes, we asked members who were in the subcommittees if they wanted to join, and so they were able to move over. And then we opened it up to the community, and we really did get the range. We got parents, we got community members. And so anybody who said they wanted to do it, we took them. And so the committee on paper looks large, but then about 10 people at a time have conflicts from meeting to meetings. So that means we'll always have a good, solid voice at the meeting.
Great, thank you. Brian?
Yep, I attended the PTSA meeting for the middle school last Monday. They are moving along with their programming. Nothing really to report beyond that. The student government finished elections, so congratulations to the middle school student government students who ran and were elected to the various positions in each grade. I wanted to mention on the football game, I wasn't able to attend, but I did watch most of it through the streaming service, and just, I think, you can sign up for that. There is a small cost, but you don't have to sign up for the annual. And I know with this game coming up, although we would like to have as many people as we can out there, the cost of the ticket versus the streaming cost is basically the same. So, there's an opportunity for people to still participate and see the game through that. And I know there's a link on the website, but I found that to be helpful. So this afternoon, I attended the athletic committee meeting, and really kicking off this year, looking to refine and understand some more actionable direction for the committee. I think, it seemed like, and Mike was there, and Peter and Don and so I think the focus it seemed to me to be on the footprint we have. How do we improve on that footprint in terms of the facilities and the layout of that, going forward, whether that's through, capital improvements or, just other means that make sense. And so I think, we'll be looking at that closely and coming out with recommendations down the road. Yeah, that's it on my end.
Sure.
I have a prop tonight. It's, I don't know how many of you still get the Buffalo Evening News delivered to your home, probably not many. I still get the Sunday paper, and lo and behold, when I looked in the next section here, I see a familiar Sweet Home administrator's face, Tom Roberts. Got a job with the real estate company. I'll pass that around if you want to see it. I thought that was interesting. So, well, I guess we'll move from the past to the present. There's quite a few things we've done over the last month, as you all know. I was in New York for the conference, and I always enjoy being in New York. Mr. Genestri Dr. Genestri had me walk a little bit the one night I was helping. But it's probably good for my health over.
You made it here.
Good chat.
I survived. So anyways, a lot of artificial intelligence classes. I did download some of the links. I don't know if I forwarded them or emailed them to the district, but I coordinate that with you,
Sure.
Scott. And I think the board would like to see some of those presentations, especially the robot, the AI robot Sophia. It's kind of very interesting. So what else did we get from that? That was great. It worked out. The retreat, I don't know if that was before or after, but I always enjoy being at Heritage Heights, and I do think Antonio is probably one of our best principals. Really enjoy working with him. He gave me a little phrase they work by there. One of their mottos, open minds, open hearts. I think that solves a lot of issues with how people view things and people and relationships. I was unable to get to the Heritage Heights PTA meeting. There was a cancellation and then rescheduled. I didn't see the reschedule until an hour before. I was unable to get there. I do think that superintendent, and I'm just going to call you Mike from now on. Mike and Toya were there with Don about the building project.
We are doing the rounds, and we've gone to Glendale and the high school so far. I know we have the middle school, I think, next week, but we're hitting them all. So talk about the latest of the capital project and potential for some scheduling changes next year that we talked about last time.
Thought you were going to be there, so I asked Katie to ask you about the AI presentation.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
and I did tell her that's what I had to report to them.
Okay.
That information. Outside of that, happy to hear what you're doing with DEI. That was one of my requests, kind of stepping aside because I think my contact through the board is as good as being on the committee, maybe not, but that's my thoughts. And that you would connect to the community, especially old guys like me, or senior citizen advocates, let me put it that way. And I hope that you do that, because I think those voices really need to be heard in the process. And other than that, I think that's all I got. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me talk about the legislative breakfast just quickly. I ran into Kathleen Shavetta there, and they still do, or I think they're going to attempt to do this federal relations network thing in Washington. I guess that's now done prior to the Albany legislator, whatever I think we call that now, SLN.
Yeah, they're changing names of both of them, so, yeah.
But I'd love to attend that, if that's okay with the board and the school district. Scott, I know has attended that in the past.
You go.
Haven't been in a while.
So anyways, that's all I have. A legislative breakfast, again, I was a little disappointed that we had one legislator there. And I understand there's some issues they had, some conflicts, but I think the presenters, both Scott and the others, Jane and so forth, did a terrific job in presenting the issues and where the schools stand, and specifically the regulations and the laws that they're trying to pass or not pass to help the school districts. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Danny?
So I feel like it's been a really long time since we did this. I got to reach way back to Halloween. I attended as many Halloween celebrations at the buildings as my little guy could tolerate. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Our PTAs are magic. They make magic happen, and they put on some really fantastic events for our kids and our families. I did attend via Zoom the PTA meeting for Glendale. So Dr. Genestri, Dr. Wilson, and Don came to talk about building things with them. So it was great. You had a great little Q&A with everyone there. And I think people got a chance to ask some questions that were just burning inside them and that they wanted to discuss. And it was sort of a no holds barred conversation. And it was great to listen to hear that dialogue back and forth.
Great turnout too. We were happy.
Yeah, they're fantastic there. I just love Glendale. I attended the meeting for the comprehensive school counseling plan that was presented to us last week. It was wonderful to see that unfold and see all the hard work that everyone put into that over this past year to get that off the ground. November 20th, there is a STEM night at Glendale for grades 3 through 5 that I'm hoping I get to attend because they have some really cool things outlined there for the kids to do for STEM. And Maple Mirror, if you're listening, I will absolutely come be a stand-in parent for anyone at that, was it called Grateful Gobble?
Yes.
Yes, I will come to your Grateful Gobble and sit with some kids that don't have representation, so. And what else did we do? We did our retreat. We've already talked about that. That was pretty awesome. So it's great to get to the high school and to Heritage Heights. I think that's about it.
Thank you. Peter?
Sure, sure.
Okay, so I did do the shopping for the family that we sponsored. I got everything on the list that was provided for me and any extra money went into a gift card for the family. I attended 2 PTO meetings this past month. My Willow Ridge meeting, they had a teacher night at McDonald's last week. They put out their first issue of the Willow Ridge Rattler, which is a student newspaper. There's a field trip in December for second graders to the Theater of Youth. They're going to have a sweetheart dance at the end of January. And they are up for Lighthouse Review, so they are collecting data for that. And then next Tuesday, the last day of school, Mr. Polino is going to get silly stringed by the top donors from the fun run. So I know everybody's looking forward to that. I attended the high school PTA meeting as well. Dr. Genestri and Mr. Feldman made their presentation about the upcoming capital project and answered some questions. And then the rest of that meeting was kind of getting ready for the meat raffle and the basketball. The high school PTA does the basket raffle, I believe, for the basketball game on Friday. And they're doing gift card raffle for the meat raffle on the 6th. So it was a kind of a planning meeting for all of that. I attended the building use committee meeting, which was the presentation by Young and Wright that we saw an hour later at the board meeting. I did the athletic council committee meeting today. I did the breakfast. I did go to this football game at Highmark and looking forward to going again on Saturday. And then I know fall sports scholar athletes are starting to roll out. So I know the volleyball team had 6 out of their 9 seniors were scholar athletes. So congratulations to all of our scholar athletes and all of our teams for their successful seasons. And I think tryouts started today yesterday for winter sports. So good luck to all our athletes. That's what I got.
Amy, can I throw one more thing in here? Actually,
Sure.
2. Just for everybody's information, the dinners, the Thanksgiving dinners, everybody, all the groups that did, they're being delivered on Thursday, just so you know. And I forgot to mention at the breakfast, legislative, 2 members of the Willow Ridge PTO attended the breakfast with us too. I got a chance to talk to them afterwards. They were very impressed with the information and wanted to get more involved.
Very nice. Very nice. I don't have much. I would like to formally thank Mr. Belanti for stepping in for me the last couple weeks and my obligations that I could not fulfill at district level. Other than that, that's it. That's all I've got because I went from the retreat to chaos. And so thank you very much for stepping in for me.
Family
Anytime.
first.
Family first, always. So with that, that brings us to our second open session. Nope. Alrighty. Personnel. May I have a motion and a second on personnel? 1, teaching and administrative, and 2, service.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion and a second to adjourn to executive session for matters related to collective bargaining negotiations? We will not be returning.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?